Good morning. Our first hymn is in the gray hymnals, number 16, Simple Gifts. Oscar is kindly turning down the sound on my laptop, which is playing our live stream back to us. Welcome to the ever-evolving, trying to make sure there's fewer mistakes than last time's service at the Lincoln Unitarian Church. My name is Amy Meller. I'm a member of the Worship Associates, and whether this is your first time or your 500th time, whether you're at home watching in your PJs, whether you're here, maybe also in your PJs, whether you strolled in feeling pretty good about your to-do list being done, or whether you were here sort of gnashing your teeth about how much there is left to be done, we welcome you. We welcome you in all of your oddities and eccentricities and imperfections and uniquenesses. We welcome you. Our service will be provided this morning by Jamie Radcliffe, who will be joining us remotely, but we're going to open with music from our church's own talented Mark Schiffler and Bob Fusen.
Thank you so much, Mark and Bob, for your beautiful music. I felt it was very important during this service to have jazz played because this service is about improvisation. And indeed, I have named this service Flights of Fancy. Before every service, flight of fancy or not, we light our chalice. We light this chalice that breathes as we breathe, that burns as we burn. We light this chalice that flickers as our hearts flicker, that shines as our hearts shine. We light this chalice that is solitary as we are solitary, that is shared as we are shared. Though we are separate, may we be together now.
If anyone would like to come forward for the story, you're welcome to do so now, and backpack blessing both. Come and have a seat.
So if you have brought your backpacks, bring them up.
We're going to start with a story. Go ahead, have a seat. Our story today is called We Don't Eat Our Classmates, and it is by Ryan T. Higgins. And I think some of you have heard this story.
But before we start the story, I do want to just take a moment to assure you and everybody here, you will never be eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex. They are extinct, I promise.
It's very reassuring. Penelope Rex was nervous. It's not every day a little T-Rex starts school.
What are my classmates going to be like? Will they be nice? How many teeth will they have?
This was very important.
Penelope's mom bought her a new backpack with ponies on it. Ponies were Penelope's favorite.
Because ponies are delicious.
Penelope's dad packed her 300 tuna sandwiches and 1 apple juice.
Finally, the big day came, and Penelope Rex was very surprised to find out that all of her classmates were
Children.
So she ate them.
Because children are delicious.
Penelope Rex, said Mrs. Noodleman, we don't eat our classmates. Please spit them out at once.
So she did.
It was not the best way to start school. And still, Penelope was determined to have a good first day, so she tried to make friends at recess. She finger-painted some of her best work.
She even saved Griffin Emery a seat at lunch. You can sit right here, she said.
Penelope started to notice everyone was making friends, but her. It was lonely.
When she got home, her dad asked her about her first day of school. I didn't make any friends, Penelope cried. None of the children wanted to play with me.
Penelope Rex, her father asked, did you eat your classmates?
Well, maybe just a little bit.
Sometimes it's hard to make friends, said her dad, especially if you eat them. You see, Penelope, children are the same as us on the inside, just tastier.
That gave Penelope a lot to think about.
Ailish just said, I don't eat my classmates. The next day, Penelope tried really hard, but poor Penelope, she could not stop herself from eating her classmates.
Mrs. Noodleman, Penelope ate William Amoto again.
And they were all afraid of her.
except Walter. Walter was a goldfish.
So Penelope tried to make friends with him. Will you be my friend? Chomp!
Eee! Cried Penelope. He's eating my finger! Wah!
Once Penelope found out what it was like to be someone's snack, she lost her appetite for children. She stopped eating her classmates even when Cece Woodman spilled barbecue sauce all over herself.
And soon Penelope made friends.
She even baked brownies to give to them. And now, even when children look especially delicious, she peeks at Walter and remembers what it's like when someone tries to eat you.
And Walter, the goldfish, stares right back and licks his lips.
Because dinosaurs are delicious. And that is the end of our story. I love that story. And believe it or not, We Don't Eat Our Classmates is a great example of creating covenant in your classroom. And that is something which our classes will be doing in the coming weeks. As we move into the new church year and school year, there is a lot to think about, a lot on our to-do list. Many adventures yet to be had. The following words are adapted and inspired by religious educators Amanda Alice and Kathy E. Smith. This year, we will join many other UU churches as we come together today to honor all those who will be heading back to school or starting the school year with a blessing of the backpacks.
We recognize that some of you may be going to a school. Maybe you started this week. Maybe some of you go to school at home. Maybe some of you attend Blue STEM right here at the church. Or maybe some of you had your last day of school a very long time ago.
And of course, today, when we mention backpack, we also mean your gym bag or dance bag, lunchbox, diaper bag, briefcase, purse, knitting bag, cell phone, tablet, computer, or keychain with its keys to transportation and shelter. Because this ritual is not just for those who carry backpacks, but for each and every one of us. This morning, I brought my backpack to show you some of the things that I rely on frequently. Logan, can you come up here and help? Can you open this up? Let's see what's in here. Can you pull out some of these things? All right, I have a notebook. You can just set it on the ground. And pencil bag. What's in some of these other pockets? Oh, how about in the front there? Go. Okay, that was the plastic bag that I used to carry the keychains. And another plastic bag. Bottle of water. Plastic bags are very handy when you have small children. Anything else in the front pockets? Kind of forget what I put in here. Maybe the very front pocket. There's a lot of pockets in this backpack. Oh, granola bar. Yeah, got to keep your energy. And a permanent marker, purple. My favorite. Some earbuds. All right, you want to stuff that stuff back in the backpack for me? And a highlighter. So there are other things, but these are really just tools, right? And I can learn without them and even do my work without them, although it would be harder. Pencil, yeah. There are some things, though, that I would find it really hard to do without. Respect for other people, kindness and compassion, understanding and acceptance and encouragement, curiosity and a passion for learning, listening to other people, working for justice, the feeling of being connected to everything around me. I bet some of you recognize those things. Those are our Unitarian Universalist principles in action. They aren't things that you can actually put in a backpack, are they? But they're gifts that I carry with me every single day, and you do too. These are some of the blessings of being in this church community.
And we should talk a little bit about what it means to say blessing, because that's kind of a strange word sometimes in this church. But for me, this is what we mean when we say blessing. It's saying, I see you, and I care about you. Here are my hopes for you. And when we do blessings, we're often blessing relationships, right? When two people get married, we say a blessing on the thing that they're doing together. When we do a blessing for animals, which we will do in about 6 weeks, we're blessing the relationship between pets and people. And sometimes we bless things. We bless backpacks and keychains, which is another way of saying, I see how much this thing is important to you. And as you use it, carry us with you.
So as you pack your backpack or your gym bag or your lunchbox or your purse or bring along your cell phone with you, with all the tools that you need to do your daily work, think about the blessings that you bring with you from this church community. So I invite you now to hold your backpacks or devices or your school supplies in your hands or your laps or in your minds, if you don't physically have one with you right now. Or if you're joining us on YouTube, you can hold your bag at home.
We also have these keychains that we will also be blessing and then handing out. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Or right now. I didn't look at the script very well. Today, we will bless these keychains that have a message of love from the Unitarian Church of Lincoln to each of you.
And these keychains can be placed on your backpack or device or in your pocket to remind you each day through technology glitches, stress, and meltdowns that you are loved. So when we pause and motion, please say those words again. You are loved. Can you try that? Yeah.
All right, so we're going to try this blessing together. Through things going right and things going wrong, no matter what,
you are loved. When things are at their best and we are at our best, we can still forget that we are loved.
When things are going wrong and we are not at our best, we can forget that even now,
you are loved. May this blessing be a constant reminder that you are loved.
In these times, many of us do not see people nearly enough and do not have the physical interactions our body needs. Still,
you are loved. Many of us are too much not alone. Our rooms and houses feel too small for the presence of so much family time. And even in this, you are loved.
Many of us are feeling some complicated emotions that come from being out in the world more than we would choose to be if all the choices were our own. In this, too,
you are loved. Many of us are wondering what will happen next, moving from hope to fear and back again, simultaneously hoping for change and stability, wanting safety for everyone and opportunity as well. In this, too, you are loved.
May this blessing be a constant reminder that
you are loved. We are all a part of something larger than ourselves. Our lives connect with each other in ways we understand and ways we cannot even imagine. When we take precautions to slow the spread of a virus, we take care of people we know and people we will never meet. We do this to treat all people kindly. When we grow some of our own food or use our car less often, we take care of our own community and the earth that is our home. We are connected in amazing and intricate ways. You are loved.
In the intricate net of all of these connections, there is a love that holds us all. One of the blessings of being a part of a church community is that we are reminded that we are surrounded by so much, connected to so much, to so many people, surrounded by love.
You are loved. May these keychains remind you that you are a part of a greater church community. May they remind you that no matter what the stress or fear, there is a path forward, and through that, and along that path, you are loved.
May this blessing bring you love that you will share with the larger world. Every day you carry with you the blessings of respect, kindness, encouragement, curiosity, listening, justice, and interconnectedness with every living thing. This community is here for you. Blessed be, and amen.
So before you head back to your classes, I'm going to recruit a few helpers here in a second, and we're going to help give you one of these keychains to put on your backpack. And if anyone else would like to have a keychain, you're welcome to come up now or wait until after service. Or if you would like, you can raise your hand and we can bring one to you. Maybe the ushers can help with that as well. And if you're joining us on YouTube and want a keychain, there will be some in the church office to pick up during the next week, or you can email me and I'll be sure that you get one. So, see, maybe Julie, would you be willing to come up? Bruce, yeah, can you help? All right, come on forward.
All right.
You want to choose which one you like? Come on up. Grab which one you want, and then we can help put them on your backpack for you. It's hard to choose which color. That one. There's a couple people behind you.
Our next hymn is going to be 1028, The Fire of Commitment. So if while we're doing that, you want to get out the hymnals and be ready to sing. Well, while we wrap up here and our children head to their classrooms in gathering for the day, if you would rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn number 1028 in the teal hymnal, The Fire of Commitment.
We are so fortunate to have so many talented folks of all different types of musical abilities to help lead us and make our celebrations more joyful. I am, as I said, Amy Meller, one of the worship associates, and this is the portion of our service each week that we call Joys and Sorrows. We know that each of us bring to each day some things that are great burdens. We also have great joys that we want to share. So for those of you who are watching on the live stream, we ask you to participate through the chat with the recognition that there's a little delay, so if you type fast, it's probably going to be more likely that I will see it in time to share. Let's start with sorrows. If you've been feeling like the T-Rex that nobody wants to sit next to, if you've had something that has been weighing you down, either for yourself or someone else, I invite you to share the name of that person or yourself out loud here in the sanctuary that you have been thinking of in sorrow. Craig and Dana.
Michael Malone's family.
Michael Malone's family. Sharon. I've lit a candle for my mother and remind you as well that you are always welcome to light a candle at the beginning of the service for either a joy or a sorrow. Are there any other sorrows you wish to speak aloud here? In the chat, Wendy. Sorrows, of course, are just one part of the life that we bring here to this community. We also have joys, whether that's a joy that you finally have people to sit with in the lunchroom, whether you have a joy of something of greater import. I invite you to type into the chat any joys that you wish to share. And for those of you in the sanctuary, please share your name or the name of the person you would like us to be thinking about in joy today.
Margaret Carpenter visiting us from her home in New Mexico.
Margaret Carpenter visiting here from her home in New Mexico.
I have a joy. I went to the doctor for surgery and came out cancer-free.
A joy from Michelle. She went to the doctor, had surgery, and came out cancer-free. In the chat, we have the A Street Band who played their beeps off on Thursday, says Bob. Jeff says Trey and Jeff met 20 years ago today. Duncan Case says, Joy, we saw 3 foxes in our backyard today. Other joys that you would like to share? Another spotter of foxes, joyfully.
The most dreaded job was cleaning out the refrigerator, and I finally did it.
It's both the big joys and the little ones. The dreaded job of cleaning out the refrigerator has been accomplished. Starting grad school tomorrow. I will also add that I was happy to attend my oldest nephew's wedding as the officiant, and I was even happier that I did not make any mistakes during said wedding.
I think we have a new thing outside called a free pantry that's been installed.
Huge new joy. We have out front now a free little pantry that has just been installed. I think probably most of you know, but let me just give you a quick PSA. The little free pantries are located all around Lincoln. You can leave items so that folks who are food insecure can stop and pick them up. We obviously have other great nonprofits doing work like the food bank, but of course those have certain hours, and the little free pantries are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So whether you would like to donate items to the little free pantry now at the church, or if you would like to pick up anything that you need from the Little Free Pantry, we're so grateful that we have that here, both for those who give and receive.
In addition to the food pantries, there's some fresh produce from our pantry garden right out here in front.
And another good joy, our own church garden is producing vegetables, and there is fresh produce that can be taken out in the gathering place for anyone who'd like to take some.
Another joy that today is Building Cleanup Day in RGL, so please stay and help out after the service.
It is Building Cleanup Day, so if you'd like to stay after the service and assist with cleanup, we would be very grateful and very joyful about that as well. Bringing all of yourselves, your joys and your sorrows, whether you were speaking them aloud today or just holding them in your mind, is part of what makes us a community. It makes it easier to have our joys amplified, and it lightens the burdens of sorrows when we do that in community. Please join me in a moment of silence for all of the joys and sorrows spoken and unspoken here today. Our next hymn is in the gray hymnal. It's number 318, We Would Be One. Please rise as you are willing or able.
Each week we take up a collection to support the work of this church and our partners in the broader world. We do this because just as we all grow from being a part of this place, we also each give back to it in our own way. As we listen to the next piece of music, the ushers will take up a collection, or you can contribute by texting UC Lincoln and the amount you wish to give to 73256. Thank you for your generosity. Our reading today is an unconventional one. It is an improvisational piece by Gabriela Montero, who is a Venezuelan concert pianist. Here, she improvises on both Amazing Grace and Ode to Joy simultaneously. I My name's Jamie Radcliffe, and I'm a worship associate of this church. When I first started coming to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln, the things that attracted me most were the singing and the silence. The silence I appreciated most was the intentional silence after joys and sorrows. Find a comfortable place in your body and join me in the sanctuary of shared silence. Those moments came to change my perspective on many things. A friend of mine was recently told by their therapist to live in the moment, but it's hard, right? As Shakespeare said, when to the social media I turn my back, yet I'm distracted by the endless feed, where every post is like a tiny snack, and I'm the one who has the endless need. When I am dulled by what is new and hot, and I am led by what is cool and neat, and I am fooled by all the things I'm not, and I am lost in my own personal tweet. Then I am dumbed by likes and shares and views, and I am blinded by the constant flow, and I am trapped inside the internet zoo, and I am always at the beck and call. But then the phone is put away once more, and I am trapped inside my own front door. Well, I do fess up, the attribution there to William Shakespeare is not completely correct. I'll discuss the actual author a little later on. Sitting in silence, not bored silence, but mindful silence, is a sovereign remedy for the endless distractions that flesh is heir to. The rhythms of breathing link us together. That connection is part of what makes these moments sacred to me. I want to talk today about a variety of ways of living in the moment. They fall under the general heading of improvisation. Let's start with the reading we just heard, Gabriela Montero improvising on Amazing Grace and Ode to Joy. I couldn't resist this particular improvisation since both tunes appear twice in our hymnal. Gabriela is a special person with a special talent, but her story has lessons for those like me with very few improvisatory gifts. She grew up in Venezuela and received a toy piano as a present when she was 7 months old. She bonded with the piano and used it to narrate her life through improvisation. Now my father wakes up, and this is what my father sounds like. Now my father goes out and comes back in a bad mood, and this is what my father sounds like. She's now a professional classical concert pianist. Unlike most classical pianists, she includes a substantial amount of improvisation in her concerts. When musicians talk about how they prepare a Bach minuet, what they say seems natural and familiar. I practice. I think about how the stress should be here. I plan my finger positions during this section. When Gabriela is asked about how she improvises, she shrugs her shoulders and says, I don't know. Pressed further, she says, I'm just turning on a faucet. Not content with these answers, her husband suggested that she work with Dr. Lim, a surgical neuroscientist from UC San Francisco. Dr. Lim has access to an fMRI machine and knows how to use it. The machine shows 3D images of which parts of a person's brain are active while they're lying in the machine. In Gabriela's case, lying in the machine playing music. Dr. Lim asked her to perform 3 tasks: to play scales, to play Bach's Minuet in G, a piece she had memorized, and to improvise. To talk about the results, I need to describe the default mode network. It's a sprawling system of functional connections between regions of the brain. My brain, your brain, apparently pretty much everybody's brain. It links together regions involving self-perception, decision-making, memory creation, and spatial awareness. Loosely speaking, it modulates the many facets of self. Playing scales, Gabriella's default mode network lit up. Her senses and time, space, and memory were all apparently talking to one another. Somewhat surprisingly, when she played the memorized minuet, the picture was almost identical, but then she is a very good pianist. Then she was asked to improvise. Activity in the default mode network suddenly, substantially diminished. What was going on? The results from Gabriella seems to suggest something that you may have experienced. As described by Natalie Hodges in her book Uncommon Measure, I think the phenomenon has visited most of us at some point in our lives, the feeling of easy self-suspension that in the best moments can accompany deep focus, the way that when you have to throw yourself into a task, it becomes almost a way to abandon the self, almost a relief to leave the self behind. Or, as Gabriella says, she gets out of the way when she improvises. She loses herself in the present and lets the music flow. Dr. Lim has also had jazz musicians in his fiendish contraption. Jazz music is all about improvisation, and jazz musicians show exactly the same effects. Memorized pieces are recalled with the default mode network in full flood. Improvisation comes from a place of non-self, or at least less self. Atheistical science nerd that I am, I prefer to talk about a brain state of non-self, but it amounts to the same thing. At this point, I must address the elephant in the room. I am not an improviser. I am bad at letting anything flow, including chords on the piano or harmony for a song. Here I am reading a sermon to you that I worked on with my editorial self wide awake. It's even recorded, for heaven's sake. It's the antithesis of improvisation. I have done about 3 minutes of improv on stage quite a long time ago, and I wasn't very good, though I was quite willing. But I will say there's more than a little improv in all of us. We talk, and when we talk, we're rarely reciting. We're engaged in a cooperative game of charades, trying to get our meaning across. If I've learned anything from my years on this planet, it's that people's experiences of what it's like to live in their own brains are very different. But my experience of conversation is that it is completely improvisational. What comes out of my mouth is not consciously planned. Like the old lady in an E.M. Forster book, I say to you, how can I know what I think until I see what I say? When a joke occurs to me in the middle of a conversation, it's never the case that any conscious planning went into it. It just happens. Language as improvisation happens in a very musical form for improvisational poets. There was a long and vibrant history of Italian improvisational poets from the 14th to the 19th centuries. I myself was once walking down the streets of Denver and saw an improvisational poet outside a coffee shop with a typewriter. In exchange for a 10-pound note, it's a long story, he wrote me a poem on the topic of languor. The most prominent improvisational poets in modern America are, of course, freestyle rappers. Dr. Lim bundled rappers into his machine too, and their results were very similar to those of musicians. Memorized pieces show strong activity of the default mode network, whereas freestyling suppresses it substantially. To freestyle, you have to get out of your own way. An extreme example of a similar phenomenon is described by Clay Drinko in his book, Theatrical Improvisation, Consciousness and Cognition. He writes, "In college, I was part of a very close-knit improv team. We practiced, performed, and partied together. During a few performances, I seemed to get so into the show that I did not remember performing. I had, and still have, no recollection of being on stage. The shows were all videotaped, and when I watched the tapes, I was amazed at how good I was at improvising. Yet, I still had no memory of being that guy on the video." Theatrical improvisation is a fascinating process. I'm a huge fan of Whose Line Is It Anyway?, a comedy improvisational show that started in Great Britain and then came to the US. It's astonishing to watch somebody create comedy not out of intensive hours of work in the writer's room, but in a completely free-flowing fashion. Each bit, each show is different, but there's always some initial setup, some constraint, and then away they go. Judging by what we've learned about improvisation in other contexts, maybe that's more literally true than we might have thought. Away they go. Their egos go away. Their default mode networks are suppressed. They get out of their own way. The result is not chaos, because our brains are astonishingly good at what they do without the need for oversight and self-awareness. There is one golden rule of improv, though. It's usually called yes and. Whenever a character creates an aspect of the scene, look, over there are wolves coming after us. The other characters respond, usually metaphorically, with yes and. They don't deny the wolves, because that just gets the scene tied in knots. They accept the wolves and then comment on the tiny anteaters riding on the wolves' backs. Or they suggest running into the cave they've just spotted in order to escape. It doesn't have to be words, but the other characters react positively to the wolves. They say, yes, and. Yes, and means making improvisation into a dialogue. Jazz musicians have been doing this since the birth of jazz. What I learned only in the last month is that tango, Argentinian tango, is also an improvisational art. What begins with steps, la caminada, el ocho, el giro, and most crucially, the embrace, el abrazo, builds into a dance that is a physical conversation. Two dancers who become attuned to one another and just know what comes next, which way to turn. Two dancers becoming one. As a non-improviser, a writer of carefully rehearsed sentences, a player of carefully rehearsed music, a dancer of fumbling, misremembered steps, I stand before you as an evangelist for the states of mind and habits that improvisation encourages. I suspect that many of us could benefit from getting out of our own way and reaching for deep calm or easy flow. I think that we all might benefit from bearing in mind the golden rule of improv, yes and. Yes and is not the perfect response to everything in our lives, but it can nudge us towards having an open mind when we are listening, not to mention an open heart. I have left one thread dangling from back at the beginning of this sermon. I said I would tell you who really wrote the Shakespeare sonnet I quoted. It was written by a computer program. Code-Da Vinci-002. To be more precise, according to Dan, who works for OpenAI, the company that created the program, the computer isn't actually programmed to write poetry. Instead, the company I work for, OpenAI, trained it by using a method called gradient descent to take an arbitrary point in a high-dimensional space of representations of, well, anyway, enough technobabble. Code Da Vinci 002 is designed and trained, but not programmed. In fact, it works a lot like the individual sections of our brains, though it has no default mode network or anything like it. It can, if asked, write a sonnet like Shakespeare, or a Shel Silverstein poem about a robot. I made a robot, and I made him strong. I made him healthy, and I made him tall. I gave him eyes and a mouth and a nose. I taught him to listen, to count, and to pose. I programmed his brain, and I made him smart. I gave him a voice and a heartbeat and a heart. I put him together and turned him on. He looked at me and said, "What's going on?" I said, "I made you, and now you're alive." He said, "Yeah, but who made you, man? You're jive." I personally find that completely astonishing. I don't share the views of a recently fired Google employee who felt that Google's AI chatbot Lambda was conscious. AIs are not currently people, but I don't rule out the possibility that someday they will be. And we'll know it when we can converse with them, reminisce with them, play jazz with them, tango with them. And when we do, I will say to them, as I do to you, please rise as you are able, on whatever appendages serve you, and join in singing hymn number 311 in the Gray Hymnal. Let it be a dance. Our closing words today are by Joseph Cleveland. May we hear the melody of life and find ourselves singing harmony. May we be open to the dissonances of the song of the land and its people, that we may be part of the world's urging towards justice, peace, and love. May we feel in our bones the rhythms of life and land and find ourselves dancing. Go in peace.
Go in peace.